So the original CEO is in the building.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. So
Thank
I've
you.
known you from the sidewalks, although we just got to know each other quite recently. But I've always followed you, uh, followed your work, and one thing that when I see you, I do remember is mentorship. You have always been someone that speaks about mentorship. How important is mentorship in today's world and in terms of national development?
Very, very important because you are not just talking about improving the present, but also helping to actualize all of the best outcomes for the future generation. Mentorship bridges a gap so that there won't be like that generational gap where like issues of transference of skills, values, or culture necessary for national development is hampered because of lack of mentorship. So through mentorship, what we advocate for is that young persons could be directed in the right way by those who have made impact in that particular area. Yes, fundamentally, parents and teachers should have provided all of the mentorship that any individual would ever need. Unfortunately, when you talk about family life education, it's not a given. There's barely like a curriculum that train people how to be parents. And also, like in teaching, it's more like teach those arithmetics. Or sometimes when you now talk about other values, other things like financial intelligence, emotional intelligence, how to even live in the community, from a practical experience of those people who are mentoring you, there's often a gap in that area. So mentorship will help to bridge the gap. And by transference of skills, by transference of potentials, culture, what you're doing is that in some regard, you find out that that can be helpful in three major areas, whether you're talking about social life, the economy, or even the politics of a nation.
Brilliant. Now, you're also an educator. How have you been able to successfully inculcate, mentorship, principles of mentorship into your school's curriculum? Because I usually see programs and initiatives. How has that actually panned out?
So basically, we understand the role of training the trainers, consistent training. The global standard for exposure to training for a teacher should range between 30 hours to 50 hours of professional development, almost like 1 hour weekly. A teacher that is, interfaces with children should be trained to train others because there are a lot of things that we assume we know. But it's actually true training. You can learn the right way to discipline, the right way to correcting a child. Because for many of us, the mindset we have about discipline is that when we're small, if you do a thing, your parent is going to get maybe something like pepper, right? And somehow, you've been able to link that to what made you who you are today. And unfortunately, you're trying some of those strategies, and it seems not to work in this current dispensation because, of course, the world has shifted. You can't expect maybe some principles that worked when you have parents who believe that even eating an egg makes you a bad child. I don't know, a lot of things have actually changed. So as things changes, as children also even get more digitally exposed, trainers also need to be exposed, know what is trending, know what's in vogue, and then find the right way to communicate those values.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a man who wears several caps. You're a mentor, you're a coach, you're an educator, you're also a diplomat.
That's right.
How has that broadened your horizon in terms of mentorship and impacting the next generation?
So basically, I see gaps, and that gap it's that oftentimes those who actually, whether it's in the public service, who's got those potentials, sometimes may not be in the right positions to influence those needed change, to bring the needed reforms. And then you now have those that are in the position, not even understanding the role, of bridging those gaps. So it's a problem. And so when I see those gaps, what I can only wish, is that we begin to train the younger people to understand, that if you have the opportunity to serve your nation in any regard, whether it's in the field of international relations, whether it's in the MDAs, the ministries, departments, or agencies, you understand your critical role, and you should be also like in the course of doing your work, rather than being aggressive, rather than being oppressive, you create an enabling environment for others to develop. That's what mentors do. Mentoring is not all about trying to force yourself, trying to be aggressive, trying to talk down on people, trying to bully people into going your own way, and then in your own mind believing that what you think is working is working. But just like we know sometimes in parenting, where like a parent, at any slightest provocation, you flog your children, but deep within you, you don't have that confidence that that instruction you left behind before leaving, that they are going to do that. The same thing also happens with aggressive bosses, right? When they come and everybody, yes, ma, yes, sir, and then they leave, plant somebody to know whether someone is talking at their back. How you can actually know that mentoring has happened is when people are truly loyal. They truly understand the values. Now, mentors dwell much on the values rather than rules.
Okay.
Rules are restrictive in nature, right? It's more or less like I have to do this because people are watching. But when you talk about your values, when something becomes a value, whether someone is watching or not watching, these are things you've come to esteem as very important. Things you've come to esteem as worthy to commit to. And at any point, anything anyone esteems as a value is what you can do, even in your private, when no one is watching.
All right, so there's this dilemma in the world of mentorship where people don't want to be mentored and mentors are too busy. Do you have that, dynamic play out in your work as a mentor?
So look at the issue there is that for someone who believes that is too busy to mentor young persons, I just think the person is not seeing the big picture. Because the time is going to come, maybe when you retire and you are just so lonely. You've not got people, right? It even happens in politics. It does happen in politics. So when you don't mentor people, then, nobody's going to be there for you in the forthcoming days of isolation. So that is why out of your busy schedule. And then for young persons who don't even esteem mentorship as very important, where we may not blame them much, because we have all manner of things like, being pandered out there as mentoring. Sometimes you have mentors or tormentors as mentors, right? And then maybe you meet someone and say, I want you to mentor me. He tells you, I used to wash car for my mentor. I wish to wash clothes. Meanwhile, no singular time for you. The person is using you and making some quotes, telling you until you are used, you can't be useful. Or if you are used, you are useless. All of those antics that are manipulations that some people under the guise of mentorship use on young people.
Okay, so on a final note, what is the one thing you wished every parent knew about mentoring?
Now, friendship. You see, this is one very vital thing that many parents lack. Yes, we know you provide for your children. But does your children need to run away from you when you are coming back? The big boss. There are some men that in the moment you hear their voice, including the wife, we adjust the children also. In some cases also, into a 21st century, you can also have vice versa. Mothers that when they are coming, even their father will adjust because the boss, the sheriff is in town and everybody have to. But I think that mentorship is all about friendship, right? You want them genuinely to benefit from your wealth of experience. You've seen it all. Like, let me give you an instance which works very well. You see, when you see like maybe a young person coming up and say, you know what, I'm not going to accept any suggestion from my parent on who to marry. Do you know what has happened? The problem oftentimes, like in this part of the world, is the fact that you don't think your parents know the best for you, and they have not seemed to prove that. Because even when you want to explain things, nobody is explaining, or trying to understand. So you make up your mind that even if you are considering this person and your parents say, go for this person, that moment the person becomes a wrong option. But look at what mentoring does. And we can also see that in business. There are some people who come from homes, right? The parents have set some foundation. And then for them to take up and build it to the next level, they will prefer to start from the scratch. Why? Because your parents keep telling you, without me, you can't make it. And that's wrong mentor. That's why you often have most generational businesses that have potentials of lasting into generation, ending just because there was no proper transference of that experience, right? Of that confidence. And people want to prove a point. But let me say it without any fear of, on equivocation, is that when mentoring happens, look at what it does. You actually understand, since this person have that wealth of experience, whether it's in financial guidance, whether it's in terms of relationship, since he knows better and he wants the best for me, I should be able to listen to him.
Thank you so much, Chukwuma Ifrebo Kenwa,
You're
for your
welcome.
time.
Thank you.